Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sangham namasami. Dear friends, in today's Sutta study program, we shall be speaking about the simile of the cloth, sometimes called the Vatthūpama Sutta, or sometimes called the Vatthā Sutta. This is number 7 in the middle length discourses. For those who are in the room, there's a few copies on the desk over there. And if you need more copies, you have to run to your room and get the copy that you're keeping in your room, or open your device. Last week, we spoke in terms of the 10 courses of unwholesome action and the way in which skillful and unskillful acts are setting the conditions for the arising or preventing of the divine abidings, and how there's a connection between the kamma and the boundless meditations, that the kamma that we do it's related to our sila. One who possesses friendliness, universal friendliness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity would not be inclined to do an unskillful deed. And one who has obtained the morality that's beloved of the nobles, that is, if they've obtained the morality of a person with stream entry, then they're very well set up for these practicing of these boundless meditations on the 4 divine abidings. Now this week, we're going from the aspects of sila, which is slightly more external, to the internal states of mind that are conducive to developing the Brahma Viharas, or the divine abidings. So with that, I shall open up the sutta. Okay, here we go. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, an Ātapindika's monastery. There, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, Venerable Sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: Suppose, mendicants, there was a cloth that was dirty and soiled. No matter what dye the dyer applied, whether blue or yellow or red or magenta, it would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. In the same way, when the mind is corrupt, a bad destiny is to be expected. And a footnote here is the bad destiny is called a dukkata. So that's a bad going, so it will go badly for you with the corrupt mind. And that's referring to taking a rebirth in the animal realm, or in the realm of the hungry ghosts, or one of the lower levels of hell, or taking a rebirth as an asura, the jealous gods. I think, is that considered lower or higher? It's higher. Okay, well, so, but the ghost, being a ghost, is a a lower realm as well as being an animal. Now, what are the corruptions of the mind? Covetousness and immoral greed, ill will, anger, acrimony, disdain, contempt, jealousy, stinginess, deceit, deviousness, obstinacy, aggression, conceit, arrogance, vanity, and negligence are corruptions of the mind. Just above, he was speaking about the Sankilita, and now he's speaking of Upakilesa. It's a very close concept to each other. So this is just a very general term referring to negative or harmful qualities in the mind. It's quite interesting. This morning I didn't raise this as an aspect of the meditation we were trying to do this morning. But spontaneously it came up that people feel craving or impatience or other reactions are concerns. And when we try to practice the Brahma Viharas, it's almost like it shows dramatically and clearly to what extent the mind is not yet really prepared to fully realize these meditations, because having any amount of stain from any of these qualities is a serious block. Keeping this list open, greed and aversion are kind of the basic ground for these qualities. But it's quite useful, isn't it, to have a longer list? It's quite challenging. One may think if somebody was very serious in practicing to get away from sensuality and sensual desire, a person could be successful in that way. They could be successful in keeping precepts and challenging themselves to keep their precepts in a very perfect way. And yet the mind could be affected by having a contempt for people who do not share the same values, and for people who are not behaving in the same way. Or even if a person is practicing with a lot of sincerity, it could still come about that you might be jealous of another person who shares your same values, but they seem to either be more accomplished than you are, or they seem to have an easier time of it than you do, or something like that. It's possible that stain of jealousy could come a lot, or that this could happen in a monastic life or any kind of mendicant religious form, where you don't have a lot of possessions. You only get one or two, and you only have one tube of chapstick. That's all you have, and then it comes to be lost or misplaced or something like that, and then a person who is not really watching their mind really careful, so then some stinginess could come up around the few possessions that we have, or if there's one donor who has helped me in the past with providing the requisites that I need, am I willing to let my monastic colleagues know about this donor, so that they might also be offering requisites to the other bhikkhunis, or do I want to keep this donor sort of to myself? Or if there's one friend who's been a student of or a friend of mine for a long time. Okay, there's one person here who knew me when I was still in the white robes of Anagarika, before in the year 2000. And then if somebody else comes along and says, "Oh, that lady is an associate of ours since a long time ago," and I would say, no, she was an associate of mine before she was an associate of yours. So these are examples that, even somebody who's practicing seriously and practicing well, if they have not yet awakened, it's possible for these corruptions to still manifest. And even a person who has a stream entry, or somebody who's once returner, still at some kind of like a subtle level, these corruptions might come up. So what are we going to do about it? Well, one thing is to be shocked and horrified if one notices such corrupt patterns emerging in the mind. And the other one is to do what must be done, do what needs to be done to gradually mitigate, reduce, and allay these tendencies directly, and then indirectly through the entire practice of this Noble Eightfold Path, knowing that with the arising of wisdom and with the arising of insight, then it becomes really possible for these tendencies to fall away. I'd like to invite others to comment about, I don't know, what's your favorite corruption, or what's the corruption that that you would like to understand better, or that is the one that's challenging for you. If anybody would like to comment about that. I'm going to stop the share, but just to keep the list in mind, I'll put it in the chat so that you can remember what the list is. Chat. Okay, so there it is. Which corruption is the most corrupting corruption? That's the greatest danger, the greatest risk. Okay, Chintana.
I find that it's easiest for me to get caught up in disdain, especially when somebody is doing something that I used to do, and now I'm not doing that. And I would like to know a way to heal that.
I guess to me, the thought that what we think we're feeling towards another, actually we're feeling that towards ourselves. Having disdain for another is actually, in a certain way, having disdain for oneself. Thinking that I had this tendency and I made so much effort and so much trouble to overcome this tendency, and here's somebody else who's getting away with it. But they're not really getting away with it, and you're not really getting away with it either. So, yeah. Colin Richard.
Thank you, Aya. I think covetousness is the root of all the others. As when you have mana, the first thing is, this is mine. So it's from that idea of wanting something, coveting after something, right? That then leads in an expansive way to all the other things manifesting, over time,
Right.
someone else has it, you don't have it, or someone wants to take it from you, or you want to fight somebody over it, or something, you know what I mean? So all these other things can like come up, from that. Anyways, that's all I want to say.
Thank
you
you.
very much for this.
So, right, covetousness also is like somebody else has it and you want your own self to have it. So maybe both covetousness and stinginess. Stinginess, you have it and you don't want to share it. Covetousness, somebody else has it and you want to have it. Absolutely. Thank you. Brittany.
Thank you, Gaia. I would say maybe deceit, because it's not necessarily lying, but it's just misrepresenting the truth. Like, for example, in an interview for a job, maybe you're embellishing yourself a little bit, or you're not telling the full truth in a story that happened. So maybe that's something that's an issue for me. Thank you.
And in the one of the Rahula Vada Suttas, the Buddha was chastising his young son for telling a lie. And he said that a lie is the gateway that leads to all other kinds of corruptions. Because if a person is not ashamed to do anything wrong and that they think they can lie about it and get away with it and cover it up, it is certainly a gateway drug. And but it's a very challenging one, isn't it? Because there's sort of like a checkbook truth, and then there's discovering and expressing the deep truth of a situation. Most of the time when we speak, it's in a kind of a shorthand that's sort of not telling the entire story, but telling part of the story to indicate that which is real and that which is true. But it's very difficult to always really see well the most important truth in any circumstance, and then to be able to express that. One may be expressing a partial truth, but the partial truth can come to be deceptive, and that's deceit. Yeah, very good. Aye, do you have something to add in general about these corruptions and what the strategy is to work with them?
Thank you, Aya. Yeah, I'm really just chiming in a way with what Richard said there, and also you said there's the sort of core defilements, the greed and hatred, greed and ill will, and those are the things I'm most aware of, and kind of I was actually just thinking about how greed is how the Buddha said that greed is the cause of all the strife in the world, in the Dukkha Kanda Sutta, and just how core it is, that wanting, and how invisible it can be as well. I just notice sometimes it's like there's a field of desire, and it's not really, one can't pinpoint it exactly, but it's like a tinted glasses or something. It's like the mind is colored by that, just like the dye, well, not like the dye, but like the stained cloth.
Right.
And it's really hard sometimes to pick up. And what I find helpful is then to sort of challenge myself by giving things up, renunciation, and then these these tendencies will reveal themselves. So sometimes it's really helpful to challenge the mind a bit, challenge the heart, and then unearth and uncover layers of this kind of covetousness, this kind of desire tendency.
Let's go back and continue reading. So then, a mendicant who understands that covetousness and immoral greed are corruptions of the mind gives them up. So here, like this understanding already, that's a tremendous accomplishment in this path of practice. I know the Buddha said that dukkha should be fully understood, and the cause of dukkha should be abandoned. But to truly, profoundly understand, to stop making excuses, and to be willing to see it like it is, that then naturally leads one to be capable of abandoning. If you don't really think it's a corruption, you will not be able to abandon it. If you really understand that it's a corruption, then abandoning is the next natural thing. And the same thing for ill will and all of the other qualities, that all of them are corruptions of the mind and give them up. When they have understood these corruptions of the mind for what they are and have given them up, then they have experiential confidence in the Buddha. This is avecca pasada. Avecca pasada. That's having, pasada is having the confidence in the Buddha, and avecca is with your own eyes, having the direct realization of confidence. This will be the sign of a person who's a stream winner. So it's again, this is, we recite about having faith and taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha all the time, but to have this perfect confidence or this experiential confidence is a wonderful event. Then the Blessed One is a perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, the word he translates as holy is called sugata, or it could be like a well gone, knower of the world, a supreme guide for those who wish to be trained, teacher of gods and humans, awake, that's Buddha, and blessed, that's called Bhagava. It's very difficult to translate the word Bhagava, but it's has a connotation of one who is, it's one who's worthy of respect, the one that we look up to, the one who's awesome. Then they have experiential confidence in the teaching. The teaching, the Dhamma, is well explained by the Buddha. apparent in the present life, that doesn't mean that it's like very easy to see the Dhamma that the Buddha is teaching. It could be just the opposite, that it's difficult. That the Dhamma is also challenging. It takes effort, and it takes a certain great cultivation of the mind to be able to see it. But when it says apparent in the present life, it means that it's here in this present life that you can see it, not anyplace else, not in heaven, not just in some kind of a mystical, magical world, but actually in this life here, the life that we have. Immediately effective, so the result of realizing this Dhamma can be experienced now. We don't have to wait until after death. Inviting inspection, relevant, this inviting inspection is called ehipassiko. This is what the Buddha said. He said, come and see. Come and see. That's his invitation to. And then opanayiko, some translators translate it as leading onward, and some translate it as leading inward. Because Suchata is translating it as relevant, so that sensible people can know for themselves. That's to be realized by the wise individually for themselves. Then they have experiential confidence in the Sangha of the Buddha's disciples is practicing the way that's good, sincere, systematic, and proper. It consists of 4 pairs, the 8 individuals. This is the Sangha of the Buddha's disciples, worthy of offerings dedicated to the gods, worthy of hospitality, worthy of a religious donation, worthy of greeting with joined palms, and a supreme field of merit for the world. I think everybody here knows what the 4 pairs and the 8 kinds of people are. So if anybody ever tells you, okay, there's 4 levels. One is stream entry, at which the first 3 fetters are lost. The second one is once returner, at which the 4th and 5th fetter becomes extremely weak. The next is non-returner, at which the 4th and 5th fetters is gone completely. And then the last is the arahant, for whom all of the fetters are disappeared. It's said that then one can be on the path or on the way to the realization of one of those levels, and then one can fully realize that level. Some teachers explain it like if there's 3 fetters connected with, or that are abandoned at stream entry, namely the skeptical doubt, the belief in rites and rituals, and the view of thinking that there's a self in any of the 5 khandhas. They think if you've lost one of them, but you've not lost the other 2, that would be on the stream entry path. I'm not sure that needs to be taken quite that literally, but there's something about entering a path and then arriving. And then arriving is something like, I suppose if you're climbing a mountain and from time to time you come to a resting place where you can sit down and enjoy the view and regroup, recover your strength, and then you can go on to the next level. Some commentators feel that the path and fruit are separated only by 1 nanosecond. Then you realize the path, and then in the very next moment you realize the fruit. And other teachers say, well, if that were true, there would not be 8 kinds of people. So there must be more than a nanosecond in between them. So then they will have given up those corruptions of the mind. And this is associated with the realizing of direct experiential confidence in the Triple Gem. They've discarded, eliminated, released, given up, and relinquished to this extent, thinking I have experiential confidence in the Buddha, the teaching, the Sangha. And when, to some extent, to whatever extent, even if you think that you're not able to fully comprehend what it would be to gain the stream entry or the stream entry path, even if you are only like a faith follower or someone who's got a rational, objective confidence in the Triple Gem, having thought it over, even to whatever extent you've gained that confidence, to that extent you have let go of wrong views and let go of corruptions of the mind. And then to that extent, having let go, they find inspiration in the meaning and the teaching. I'm going to pause here because now it's going into the another sequence of the upward spiral of developing the factors of awakening, developing these positive states of mind. But I think I want to pause here and ask if there are any comments or questions about what it is or what it signifies to have experiential confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Brahmavara.
Yeah, it's really, I understand that at stream entry there is this kind of alignment with the path, and once thus aligned, it's not possible to be deflected from the path. So it's like all our energy and effort and attention really is for liberation. And that's a huge breakthrough. And I'm just reminded of the suttas where the Buddha gets a little tiny piece of dirt under his nail and says, which is bigger, this piece of dirt under my nail or the entire planet? And then he compares the two with the amount of suffering that a stream enterer still has to deal with. It's like the dirt under the nail as compared to the entire planet. So it's just an enormous breakthrough. And I guess that's why, quite a few spiritual teachers will be really trying to direct their students to this breakthrough of, exploring and examining the first 3 fetters and trying to see through them. And
Right.
Because once we've managed to do that, then, it's not immediate by any stretch necessarily, but there is this inevitability about the final goal being reached at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging that Venerable Satima is in the room, but not with the camera turned on. But Venerable, if you have any a comment that you would like to make about this point about stream entry and the confidence in the Triple Gem.
No comments at this time. I just appreciating very much all the beautiful sharing so far. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll call on Richard then.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make a note about some of the earlier things that were discussed. So it says that he abandons these things. Now, abandonment is not total destruction. Abandonment is like a child playing with a toy, and he abandons that one, he goes to another one. But he may come back to that toy, or he may become old enough and more mature that that toy, he never touches it again. Do you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that it's gone forever, but he sees in his mind that the best thing to do is to not engage in any of these things. Now, the pure white cloth, that's the cheta, that's the mind. And the mind, by volition, can make chittas arise, states of mind. And that's what these things are. These are states of mind. But just as they arise, they can cease again. So they're not part of the cloth. They're just a temporary stain on the cloth, but the cloth is still just the cloth. So if you can stop those stains from arising and clean out the previous ones, then whatever state your mind can go into, higher states, like these colors, these are like higher states of mind, right? So if the cloth is not dirty and you go into the higher states of mind, you get that pure perfection of those states. But if the mind still is colored with some of these lower states and you like do jhana or something, your mind is still going to be colored. And that's why it says that you may still end up in a bad destination. Even you can attain jhana, you may still end up in a bad destination. So that's why you want to let these chittas go.
Yeah.
I think that's about all I was going to say about that at this point. But yeah, it's important to understand the difference between chitta being states of mind, as like here, Buddha always describes when he's describing chittas. If you look at the Pali, you'll see these old chittas, right? Yeah,
Right.
Those are states of mind, states of mind, states of mind, one after another, which is different from the cheta, the mind itself, in which these things arise by volition. Okay, thank you very much
Good.
for listening.
Thank you. In a little short while, we're going to come to the beautiful metaphor of the large quantity of pure water that can wash that cloth, or else the fire that can purify the gold. And so then until we get home, until we come to full realization, then we got to keep washing. We got to keep doing the laundry again and again, using the pure water of this Dhamma, and being within that, being skillful with that, and even that pattern of letting go, again and again, is so useful as a pattern, because at the end, letting go at the most profoundest level to the whatever would lead a person to rebirth, that final letting go has been conditioned by all of the millions of times you have already let go of things that were unwholesome. I'll come back to share again. They're thinking, I have this experiential confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. They find inspiration in the meaning and the teaching. They find joy connected with the teaching. Thinking, I have discarded, eliminated, released, given up, and relinquished to this extent. They find inspiration in the meaning and the teaching, and find joy connected with the teaching. When they are joyful, rapture springs up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, they feel bliss. When they're blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. It's very noteworthy how very often samadhi is spoken of in these terms. You don't really see in the early suttas obtaining samadhi, sama samadhi, or the four jhanas, or the deeper meditations. You don't find that being associated with a technique of meditation. Instead, you see it's arising from this process of purification and from the arising of these factors of awakening. It's a little bit circular because the joy that springs up is called pamoja, and pamoja is related to mudita, which is the boundless mudita, is one of the Brahma Viharas. And I was trying to tell you today that you don't develop the Brahma Viharas as a preliminary practice, but it's more the fruition or the result of the mental purification. So you see this joy happening at both parts of the path. It is certainly true, the Buddha said that this path is beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end. And that means that even for a beginner, someone who's not accomplished very much or realized very much, they could quickly notice that 20% of their dukkha has disappeared, or 50% or 70% of their dukkha has disappeared, even the first time that they heard of the teachings of the Buddha and said, oh, so that's it. Now I understand that immediately there can be an immediate and permanent, like a partial reduction in some of these negative patterns. And then as we go along through the training should continue to have that happy quality, that joyful quality of noticing to whatever extent that the dukkha has been allayed. And then being joyful, then pieti comes along. This is translated as rapture, and pieti is one of the signs of getting to concentration or getting to samadhi. And then when one is within samadhi, then the body becomes tranquil. And then it says they feel bliss, and in the Pali that's sukha, which most simply is translated as happiness, wellness. So that's a very broad term. But it's important to notice that it's a sukha vedeti, so they directly experience. So it's not just a concept of happiness, not just some mantra about happiness, but it's the actual direct experience of this sukha, which is makes it so much easier to go on with this practice, like having a shock absorber that one is able to be in the world and to be have a distance from the qualities of body and mind together that otherwise tend to go into reactivity and stressfulness. But instead, those qualities are buffered by this sukha. When they're blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. Now, very interesting metaphor, next metaphors. When a mendicant of such ethics, okay, there's the sila, of such qualities, those are the qualities of mind, those are the chittas, the qualities of mind, of such wisdom, when that mendicant eats boiled fine rice with the dark grains picked out and served with many soups and sauces, that is no obstacle for them. So this is the one, perhaps the one luxurious sensual pleasure that is still good to be experienced by bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. We're not sleeping on soft and luxurious beds or watching entertainment or decorating with perfumes and makeup. We're not playing games and splashing in the water, playing around. We're not going to the theater. We're not listening to musical entertainment, but still we have to eat lunch. And sometimes the people may bring a very delicious and well-cooked lunch. So a person who's got the danger of sensual craving, if the mind is stained like the dirty rag, then the delicious food is a danger for them. But if the mind is pure, the delicious food is not a danger. Then, compare with cloth that is dirty and soiled. It can be made pure and clean by pure water, or native gold, which can be made pure and bright by the forge. In the same way, the mendicant of such ethics, qualities, wisdom, eat the boiled rice and the dark grains picked out, and it's no obstacle for them. This morning I was speaking about the idea of mudita being a kind of a gentle and a contented state of mind. It's a happy state of mind, which is also pliable and flexible and like receptive, able to receive the truth because it's not putting up a resistance. And there's a certain way also that the pure gold that's been refined and purified and the dross has all been eliminated, that gold becomes flexible and pliable and workable, and the goldsmith is able to make any kind of very fine shape or form out of it that they wish to. And so it's that kind of purified mind which has a potentiality of receiving the further truth, the further insights. Then they meditate, spreading a heart full of friendliness to one direction, the second, the third, and the fourth. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around. They spread a heart full of friendliness to the whole world. Abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. So, in this case, it seems like the Brahmaviharas are to be fully practiced as an outcome, more so than a preliminary practice. it's not that this monk has taken up social work and is spending 24 hours a day sending thank you notes and going around and saying nice things to people, or running around and smiling at people, or that a monk is not individually thinking about this person and that person and that person, and thinking about all the different kinds of people, all the different kinds of beings anywhere in the world, and then for each particular type of being that they think of, having that radiation going out and spreading to that particular kind of person. But this practice seems to have more unified and a kind of a stillness associated with it, so that it's like an inclination of the heart, it's like a readiness, it's like a state of the heart, which is not jumping into a diversity, but it's staying within a kind of unification, even at the same time that it's spreading around without any boundaries. Now, it's this boundless quality that makes it possible to ameliorate or allay the impact of the karmas that one has done in the past. Because the karmas would be like putting a teaspoon of salt in the great Ganges River, or putting a speck of dirt into outer space. That it doesn't have the impact. Richard.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that in the previous paragraph, sila is there, right? Egam silo or something. You took the page away, so I can't read it. But so I prefer to translate sila as habit, because when you get to the next section, their mind only goes to these things. That's the habit that they've developed. Their habit is like a natural thing. You don't think to go this way or that way, right? That's the way you always do it. So now with that silo, that high level of habit, the heart always goes out to everyone and everything, like that. And also the word they translate as heart, you'll see there, as I was saying earlier, cheta, mind. The mind, right? One's own mind is always going and doing these things, right? It's your mind that's expanding out into all these things. Anyway, I just wanted to point out those Pali words there, and in my opinion, what they mean in the influence. Thank you for this.
Other questions or comments so far? I see 2 new messages. Yes, the 7 factors of awakening. Aye.
Yeah, I just really, get the beautiful sense from this, how, it's pointing to how the mind that's cleaning up, washing the cloth, purifying the gold, is, it's naturally a mind that's imbued with these qualities of the Brahmaviharas. And that is, the sense I have is that's our natural state. That is the natural state of the mind when it's undefiled. And it's really lovely, very positive teaching. And so much of the Buddha's teachings really are pointing to this natural purity that's there. And it's just a matter of, if you just work away at the dross, the clouds, the focus on the dukkha, focus on the suffering, and you'll find your way to this beautiful mind, beautiful heart. And I love that cascade of the upward spiral, as you said, Aya, that cascade of bliss and well-being that naturally can begin to manifest. It's really uplifting.
Yeah. So, metta can be translated as friendliness. It's controversial to translate it as love because love also can be a defilement, has sort of a double meaning. But friendliness doesn't have that double meaning. And metta is the most frequently mentioned all by itself, while the other three factors are very often mentioned together in this set. It encompasses all the others. Metta has the wonderful quality of being applied to all, whether a person is good or bad, or whether they are feeling suffering or not suffering, whether they're easy to like or difficult to like. The metta just goes to all of them, no matter what. The second, we've talked a little bit about spreading the heart full of compassion, karuna. And lately, I've been finding it very powerful to think of compassion not as being something that is focusing on dukkha, but instead that compassion is what is able to see the end of dukkha and able to see the way to the end of dukkha and is able to visualize one's own self or any being coming out of dukkha, coming to the end of dukkha. And that then compassion it's that aspect of our quest, which is that this emerging out of the first noble truth, emerging out of the second noble truth, and realizing the third noble truth, seeing it at that fundamental way. So, of course, it's normal, wise, and good to know that about the specific suffering and not to have a blind eye about the specific suffering of people, whether they've experienced some loss or some distress or some stressful situation that they don't yet know how to take care of. So one can see those things and like not to see the horribles without also seeing the way out of them. This is what I'm finding is sort of like my new emphasis about compassion. And likewise, then the third one, meditating with a heart full of mudita, is calling here rejoicing, sometimes called sympathetic joy. This is, I've heard it more traditionally mentioned as rejoicing in the success of another. So if you encounter somebody who's very successful, you would not feel jealous of their success. But you would be pleased about their success, and the wish that you have is that they wouldn't lose the benefit of the success that they've had. But then there's this other idea that a person who has mudita will not be discontented. So then the pure freedom from discontent, if somebody is really very far away of that habit of mind, the discontented critical mind, that critical reactivity to things, then whatever is seen, then one can see the beautiful potential, or one can see the goodness in many different situations without the stain of discontent or critical thinking coming along and putting a blot on the pure celebration of the spiritual success of oneself and others, and the potential for awakening of oneself and others. And then last, the heart full of equanimity. Recently, I've been taken with the idea of that equanimity is able to see. It's got this very even-minded way of overlooking all of the ups and downs, all of the pains and pleasures, all of the throughout the whole world, seeing all of the ways in which the world goes on with those negative habits and that suffering, and also seeing the moments of success and so forth, and just having an even-minded way of seeing. I know that for a I'm not trained as a therapist or in psychology in that way, but I think I've heard that one of the things that therapists learn is something that they call evenly hovering attention. So it's like in a state, it's kind of a neutral state, but it's able to pick up and perceive the subtle nuances of what the client may be presenting to them, or even the subtle nuances about like their own reaction that's happening in a conversation with the client. And so that hovering attention seems kind of close to me in how therapeutic and how beneficial, how really powerful it is in the world to be a kind of person who's able to watch over the world with equanimity, and how healing and how beneficial it is if we have anybody in our life who has got that quality of equanimity and is able to see us, as we really are, without either getting, without painting it false in any way at all, without getting excited about our shortcomings, without getting excited about our successes, but instead just seeing how it is. So that's the 4 Brahma Viharas. And now we're coming to a very high level indeed. They understand. This is the description of a stream enterer. There is this, there's what is worse than this, there's what is better than this, and there is an escape beyond the scope of perception. So once one has had that eye-opening breakthrough to stream entry, there's still a ways to go along the path, still things to be realized, still things to be abandoned, but one is able to see the end of the tunnel, where the destination is. Knowing and seeing like this, their mind is freed from the defilement of sensuality. Kama asava. So kama is the world of sensual desire. Because we're human beings, we were born into the kama loka, or the kama world. So we were born with a kind of a brain and a body that is fitting in this world of sensual desire. That's the world that we're in. And then the asava is called the stain, or the taint. It's like the stain on the cloth. But we don't have to keep that stain, and we don't have to have the inclination to stay in this world. So we can go beyond that. The mind is freed from the development of sensuality. The desire to be reborn, that's called a bhava asava. So bhava is to become. I want to be something. I want to be somebody. I want to be reborn in heaven. I want to be enlightened. I want to be an arahant. Those are all bhava asava, wanting to be something. And then the ignorance is called the avidya asava. So again, ignorance is described as a kind of a stain. So the mind is freed from those three kinds of stains. When they're free, they know they're freed. They understand rebirth is ended, the spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There's nothing further for this place. This is called a mendicant who is bathed in the inner bathing. So now we're going to, in the last few minutes, have time for another wonderful, beautiful, helpful metaphor. But I'm going to let Richard help us to understand the part that we just went through.
Thank you, Aya. First, I just had this insight, mudita, connected with the progression of the Brahma Viharas. So, I like to call it loving friendship or friendliness, friendship, they're all okay. And then you have compassion. But compassion can be, oh, let me help this person, but not necessarily bring them up to your level. But mudita, right, which is sometimes translated as sympathetic joy, I think it's more like you get to the mind of what's good for me is the same for them. We both have the same interest. We both want to overcome suffering and transcend this samsara. And then equanimity is that everything's equal, right? Equanimous. You see the progression I'm talking about here? Now,
Yes?
so now the next section, I prefer Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Says, he understands thus, there is this, there is the inferior, there is the superior, and beyond there is an escape from the whole field of perception. So my understanding is that there is this, the physical world. There is the inferior, the heavens. There is the superior, the formless realm. And then there is the escape from perception, cessation, like that. I think that's what's being talked about here. And I want to make one quick comment before we go into the next section. There's a word here, why Brahman go to the Bahuka River? What can the Bahuka River do? The reason I want to make this comment is I think it'll make it understandable. This word here, Bahuka, B with an A and a line over it, it means long A, if you know Pali, I know you do, but people listening may not. Only appears in this sutra. But there's another word that appears in many sutras in all the Nikayas, which is B with a short A, Bahuka, and it means many. So what I think this is an error in the Pali, making this a long A. I think what he's saying is, doesn't Buddha believe in the many rivers? And then he gives example, this river, because Bahuka is the only one no one knows what that river was, right? But it's the leadoff river. He says, doesn't Buddha believe in the many rivers? And then all the others are known rivers in India. Famous, in India, it was the land of many rivers. And they were all considered sacred because you go there, you bathe, you clean yourself off, you drink, you refresh yourself. You know, it has so many reasons why, right? You put water in your crops, so many things, right? So that's why they're considered sacred. So this is the only one which is an unknown river. No one knows what it is, but the word with a simple change in it then becomes the many rivers. And that's what I think is being discussed here. So that may help people understand the context of this. Anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for that sharing. I'll call on Anaya Brahmavara again to see whether you can help us to appreciate the last paragraph that we read about the final realization.
Mm. I don't know if I have anything to add, really.
Okay.
At this point,
Okay. Let's go ahead then. So bathing was a ceremonial purification practiced by the Brahmins. So that's the context of this next anecdote. Now at that time, the Brahmin, Bharadvaja, Sundarika, was sitting not far from the Buddha. He said, but does Mr. Gautama go to the river Bahuka to bathe? Why go to the river Bahuka? What can the river Bahuka do? Answer, many people deem that the river Bahuka leads to heavenly world and bestows merit, and many people wash off their bad deeds in the river Bahuka. Then the Buddha addressed Bharadvaja Sundarika in verse. The Bahuka and the Adhikaka at Gaya and the Sundarika too, Sarasvati and Payaga and the river Bahumati. A fool can constantly plunge into them, but it won't purify their dark deeds. What can Sundarika do with the Payaga or the Bahuka? They can't cleanse a cruel person, a sinner, from their bad deeds. For the pure in heart, it's always the spring festival or the Sabbath. This is the opposite of that. For the pure in heart and the clean of deed, their vows will always be fulfilled. It's here alone that you should bathe, Brahman. Make yourself a sanctuary for all creatures. For if you speak no lies, nor harm any living creature, nor steal anything not given, and you're faithful and not stingy, what's the point of going to Gaya? Any well may be your Gaya. What a great theme this is. Grow where you're planted. Anything you experience, any context, can be the context for awakening. And that through this inner bathing of purification, one doesn't need to go to an outside place, which is a holy place. One's own self can become that holy place. Sanctuary, his translation for Kema, a place of safety, a sanctuary for all the creatures. I feel this a lot, when we get time to spend time out in the forest, is knowing that just how, to the extent that we're able to just be careful and not ruin their habitat, to the extent that we're able to be gentle, that if we see that, some creature is, putting their nest or putting their place of rest or making their hangout in a certain area, they keep a respectful distance and allow them to have, their areas to have their own space, to not give them harm, but to have that place of friendliness. It is so easy for a human being to trample over everything, and to inadvertently spoil the habitat of many creatures. It's possible for a person to make themselves into a dangerous place. But it's also possible for a person to make themselves into the safe space, the space that somebody would come to for refuge. When he had spoken, the Brahman Bharat Vajrasandarika said, "Excellent, Master Gautama, excellent," as if he were writing the overturned, revealing the hidden, pointing the path to the lost, lighting a lamp in the dark, so people with clear eyes can see what's there. Mr. Gautama has made the teaching clear in many ways. I'll go for refuge to the teaching, to the Sangha, to the Buddha. I'll go for refuge to Mr. Gautama, that's the Buddha, to the teaching, and to the mendicant Sangha. May I receive the going forth, the ordination, in Mr. Gautama's presence. And the Brahmin received the going forth, the ordination in the Buddha's presence. Not long after, living alone, withdrawn, diligent, keen, resolute, he realized the supreme end of the spiritual path in this very life. He achieved with his own insight the goal for which a gentleman rightly go forth from lay life to homelessness. He understood rebirth is ended. Spiritual journey has been complete. What had to be done has been done. There's nothing further for this place. So the Venerable Bharadvaja became one of the perfected. Clearly, a sutta like this is such a wonderful combination of things that are very immediate and attainable and normal, that can be understood, comprehended, and realized by anybody. Very much connected with this world, with what's right in front of us, what needs to be taken care of. And it's also true, isn't it, that the sutta is also presenting a sublime aspiration of accomplishing this complete purification of the mind by way of wisdom and the path. And that then these Brahma Viharas is not just some kind of prayer to be recited by a person who still bears some kind of inner negative habits, or it's not, like I was trying to say earlier this morning, it's not like the frosting on the cake that you would try to cover yourself with in order to temporarily hide the inner imperfections. But instead, it's what would be the natural home, the natural manifestation that will become more and more clear the more we are able to accomplish that inner purification. I may give Brahmavara the last word if you'd like to have it.
Oh, that was so beautifully said. Thank you so much. I just couldn't add a thing to what you said.
Okay. Please email me and tell me what week you would like to lead the sutta study and what sutta you would like to do, and then I'll be able to let the others know so they can make a special plan to come and enjoy having your voice be the more have the more quantity of your voice, and then I'll just chime in here and there when you're teaching.
Will do, Ian. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think Is it okay if that's enough for today? And we can close. It's 2:30, and I have a reason to need to give respect to the Triple Gem and close this session for today.
I
Yes.
asked Richard, can I just say one thing? That section there, Sundarik says, Master Goda has made the Dharma clear in many ways, as though turning upright would have been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing a lamp in the darkness. That's also in the suttas a sign of stream entry, when one attains that view, because the world changes. You were looking at the world one way, and now it's turned right side up, and you see it. You've developed right view, and that's why he so quickly goes to become an arahant after that. That's a tremendous aid in that. If under the right circumstances, you're in the right place and time and everything, with the Buddha right there to teach you and everything, or other, great arahants. But anyways, I just want to make that quick point. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, everybody, for your patient listening today, for all of your efforts and all of your good practice. And we will see you the next time we see you. Aram Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamman Namasami Subhatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Samno Sangham Namami.
Thank you, Aya.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aya.
Yeah.
Sadhu.